Hello everybody and welcome back to another My Porch Prints tutorials. This is Kyra and today I'm going to be showing you how I created the spine and how I bound the signatures into the journal for my Regency Romance junk journal. I do have a flip through that I put out recently, so if you haven't seen that, the link will be down in the description box below if you want to check that out. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and jump right into our tutorial, starting with our signatures. So the signatures for this journal, I already kind of went ahead, printed everything out front and back. This is just regular paper. These are papers from the Regency Romance journal kit, as well as some of our scrap packs. I threw in a couple of copy dyed papers. So it's kind of just a mix of things that I thought would look nice. You can use any papers that you have on hand, any kits you have on hand. I will link the kits used down in the description box for anybody interested. And I went ahead and used about 7 or 8 pages per signature. Again, everything printed front and back, just kind of a nice mix here. And I'm going to be doing 4 signatures. You can see I already went ahead and kind of made sure all of my pages are right side up, a good, variation. You can use any size pages you want. They don't have to be perfect 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. I even threw in like a couple of these paper lace doilies just for some added fun and variation. Just kind of folded everything in half, stacked them up, and we are ready to go. Now, I do have some tutorials on how to sort of distress and decorate these pages a little bit more. If you wanted to, you could like punch the edges or tear the edges or, ink the edges, however you want. I'm going for kind of a lighter look, so I'm just going to leave things as is and set these aside so we can start making the actual cover. Alright, so for the cover, if you've been on the channel before, you've already seen one of my favorite things to use are torn open Cheerio boxes. I really like soft cover journals. I feel like they're really easy to use. And just the way that the Cheerio box is designed, it already comes with kind of a front and back cover and a 2.5-inch spine. So this just makes my job really easy. So to, measure out the covers, you could just measure out 5.5 by 8-inch page covers if you want to. I'm going to be taking my pages, my signatures, stacking them up and lining them up with the crease of the spine here, and then also along the bottom edge of the cereal box. And then I'm going to weigh them down with something heavy to make sure they don't move, and then just trace along the outer edge with a pencil here. And this can be kind of a neat trick if you're someone who doesn't like to measure, or maybe if your pages are different sizes, it makes sure that the cover is large enough for the largest sized page. Alright, so go ahead, same process, just do it on the other side of the spine, lining it up with the crease of the spine and the bottom crease of the box. And just trace around it with a pencil like this. And then you can use a ruler or anything you have on hand that is kind of a straight edge to connect those two top portions of the cover, just like this. And if you want to, you could extend the size of your cover a little bit if you're worried that maybe your pages are too large or something like that. You want the cover to be larger than your pages, you could do that. I'm going to be curling my spine, so it shouldn't be an issue. And I'm going to just cut that portion out. You can see we've got the front cover, back cover, spine already kind of made for us, nice and simple. And you can leave the cover square if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of bend mine and curve it. I kind of like the look of a round spine. I feel like it looks a little more like an old traditional book, but you can do it whatever you want. If you do crease it, don't worry about these little crease lines that show up. That's going to be covered up anyway, so go ahead and just kind of form it until you get a nice curve if that's what you want to do. And you might be thinking that the spine looks a little too big for the 4 small signatures I have, but once I do some decorating, it's really going to fill up the space. So I'm going to go ahead and work with the 4 that I have. You could add more signatures or more pages, however you want to do it. It really depends on the kind of journal you want to make. Since I'm doing a decorative one, that's kind of what I'm doing. And for decorating the actual outside, I'm going to be starting with 2 identical pieces of paper from the Regency Romance junk journal kit. Whoa, it's a lot to say. And I'm going to just, take one, print it out twice so that they match, flip them over, and I'm going to be marking off a 1/2 inch from the sort of inside edge of my page here. Going to connect the two with a line, and then I'm going to be using some Fabri-Tac glue just to kind of fill that space that I've made. I like using Fabri-Tac because it is not water-based and won't wrinkle my paper, which is really nice when I'm creating a cover. So I'm just going to layer those papers over one another, finding that line and gluing them together. And then adding glue all over the front cover of my journal. I'm going to glue it down onto the back of my decorative paper like this. And you want to try to keep the border even sizes. Mine's not perfect because I hate measuring, so I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but you can measure if you want to. And then I'm going to fold in the corners, gluing them down over the cardboard like this, and then doing the same thing with all of the edges, just folding them in and gluing them down. And I like to take a bone folder and crease along the spine just because once you start layering paper, it gets a little bit stiff, so I like to crease it as I go here. All right, just like that. Now we have our outside cover done. We can start working on the inside. Now with this one, instead of going vertical, we're going to turn the pages horizontal like this. I accidentally printed mine off with the wrong pattern. It's going vertical instead of horizontal, but I don't want to waste ink, so I'm just going to use it as is, and it still looks fine. And I'm going to take one of those pages and cut it in half, kind of right where the spine is, so that we can hide where the papers overlap with our signatures once they are added in. And then this is optional, but I'm rounding the corners with a corner rounding punch. You could use scissors or not do this at all. And again, starting with the larger piece, adding glue all over. Make sure you get those edges good so that they don't curl back. And I'm going to glue it down like this, and then overlap with the other paper, leaving a bit of a border so that you can see that pretty blue paper. And then when I creased mine, I think I just didn't wait for the glue to dry long enough, or maybe I should have worked and creased it while it was still wet. Either way, I think if you do either of those things, you won't get the wrinkles I got, but it's called junk journaling, not perfect journaling. So on we go. So moving to the outside decorating process, I took some of this sort of slightly elastic lacy ribbon that I have here. I think this is from Hobby Lobby. And I'm just going to glue a piece down like this, covering the back cover and just a small portion of the front cover and spine. And then I went ahead and grabbed some ribbon that had kind of like a ruffled edge to it. I do not know where this ribbon is from. We've had it forever. It's like a slightly elastic ribbon. These are the details from the back, but the top portion of it was torn off at some point, and I have no idea where it is. So any kind of ribbon will work. It doesn't have to be ruffled. It could be lace ribbon. I'm just adding a bit of trim around the edge because I thought it would look kind of cute. I do like the ruffled edge. I feel like it looks a little more, I don't know, old-fashioned, vintage. It reminds me of like the old photo albums that my grandmother had, and it's very nostalgic and I like it a lot. But what I didn't like was the look of the elastic on the inside, so I am going to take some of this thicker like woven ribbon, and I'm going to be covering it up with that just to make it look a little bit nicer. And I did end up using two different types of ribbon for this and just kind of overlapping them, starting with the sides and then doing the top and bottom, just kind of hide those corners and, you know, make it look just a little bit cleaner. You can use anything you want or don't do this at all, it's fine. It's just what I did. And then for the collage on the front cover, I just grabbed some more of that lacy ribbon and then some pieces of these little like appliques that we have, and just cut some portions from that. Went into my scrap box and grabbed various scraps. These come from a bunch of different kits. I had some fussy cut flowers available. I have a couple pieces from the Regency Romance kit, as well as this like larger piece that comes from our Everything Ephemera pack, which I used this a lot when it actually came to the decorating part of my journal for this journal. I do love this kit. It really comes with everything and it's super helpful. So if you are looking for a kit to buy for the first time, I would recommend the Everything Ephemera. And then I did go in with this distressor. It's got like little blades inside of it that you can use to kind of tear the edge of your paper just to kind of give it a little bit of texture. And then I'm going to start, you know, gluing down my ribbon and starting with this larger piece in the back here. I did just hold it together with a paper clip, added a little piece of ribbon here. and I'm just gonna glue it down kind of to make the base of the collage. If you wanted to, you could like leave portions of some of these pieces open for like tuck spots or pockets. I'm just gonna keep everything really simple and just keep it a flat, non-moving collage cover today. Just make it simple. Alright, so most of these pieces again came out of a scrap box that I have, so I don't know where everything's from. I do think that the little corset fussy cup came from our Shabby Steampunk journal kit. I will try to link that down below if you are interested. I think a lot of those pieces would actually go really cute in this journal. But again, this just came out of a scrap box, and I'm just kind of taking random pieces. I found this like torn piece of notebook paper I'm gonna use in the middle here with one of the journal words, and just, you know, layer things until I like it. You don't have to do things exactly how I did, just, you know, whatever you like, but here is kind of what that looks like when it's all done. All right, and now we can begin moving on to the actual binding portion of this. So I'm going to be doing a tie-in method here, and so I need to punch some holes, and it's really important that you kind of, when you're decorating your cover, that you don't cover up an area where you want your holes to be. So, you know, don't add anything that you don't want to punch a hole in certain areas of the spine on the outside or the inside. So to begin, I'm going to be making a guide here. So I'm taking an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I am marking off a 2.5 inch line here because we want this piece to be the same size as our spine. So since mine is 2.5 by 8 inches, that's what I'm doing. If you have a slightly different sized spine you're working with, you'll want to use those measurements, okay? So go ahead and just measure that out, trace it, cut it out, and this is going to be the guide for punching our holes, okay? Make sure it fits just like this. And then again, I'm somebody who hates measurements, and I'm just really bad at it. My brain just doesn't get it. So I'm going to be doing a lot of practical measuring here. So like right here, I'm just kind of eyeballing where that lace trim is and creating a little line so that I don't punch my holes in that area. This is my no hole punch zone. All right, so next we want to create kind of 4 equal quadrants. So again, you could measure, but I'm just going to fold and use my creases as my guide. So I'm just taking the whole thing and folding it in half the long way, giving it a good crease with a bone folder, since those creases are my guidelines. I really want to be able to see them. And then we're going to do the same thing again. Fold it in half again, long ways, just like this. Give it another good crease. All right, when you open it up, you should be able to see those creased lines really clearly. And I'm going to be creating a second line under my first, about 1/2 inch. Again, I didn't measure. You certainly could. And now you can see we've got 4 quadrants, here, 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 and here. And we're going to want to put a dot right in the center. So I am adding another kind of faint line here, roughly in the center of those first 2, just to kind of give me a better idea of where I want the line to be, my dots to be. And I'm going to create 4 dots right in the center of each of those little quadrants, those little boxes. All right, same thing on both ends here. Faint line in between, trying to get a good center and adding those dots. All right, so now that we have those done, that's going to be kind of where we punch our holes. So we've got a guide. Now I'm going to clip it into my spine. Make sure that you get it even between your 2 covers. You want it lined up as straight as possible on your spine. And we're going to be punching these holes out. Now, my hole punch is not large enough, so I'm going to be using a crocodile punch. And we do have this item linked in our Amazon shop, so if you're interested, you can find that in the links down below. If you don't have that at all, you could potentially use like a tapered needle or awl like this. But if you don't have any of those items, you could also just do the original old-fashioned way of doing a tie-in, which is just to tie it around the spine of your journal and tie it in like this. Now, I don't love this method because it tends to not be solid. It kind of yanks on your spine. It can tear your spine. It tends to come loose over time, and the pages tend to kind of flop around and get a little torn and get a little messy. So I do like the eyelet version I'm doing today because it prevents that from happening, but in a pinch, you could do that. However, I'm going to be using eyelets and my crocodile punch. So with the 3/16 inch punch, I'm going to be just popping out each of those little holes that I marked, going right through the spine and the template we made like this. And when it's done, you can see that's kind of what it looks like. Now we can take our template out, but make sure that you save it. We're going to need it in a little bit. And then I'm just going to take my eyelets and just kind of pop them in like this, going from the outside of my spine in, and then using the eyelet press on the crocodile, I'm going to flatten them. Right, just like that. And then back to the template, I'm going to cut one of those sections out like this, and we're going to fold it in half, and this is going to be a guide that goes inside of our signature. So go ahead, just fold it longwise, crease it, and then open up your signature to the very center of it, and then fit that creased template that we made into the signature like this. I'm going to clip mine down so it doesn't move, and I'm going to use the 1/8 inch marker on the press to pop those little holes out. Again, you could use a needle or an awl, however you want to make these holes is fine. Remove the template, go through and make sure that all of your pages are right side up before you attach it to your cover. And you can use any kind of string or ribbon. I'm going to be using these My Scrap Cabin Shop ribbons. These are like little sari silk wrinkled kind of crinkly ribbons, and I'm using a variety of colors because I thought it'd be kind of cute and fun and match the journal. And for measuring them out, you can just kind of tie it around your signature and your spine to kind of get the length you want. I knew that I wanted mine to be extra long, so I had some hanging off. So I did grab a ruler to show you exactly how much I'm using, which the ruler I'm using is an 18-inch ruler, and the ribbon is folded in half. So this is a 36-inch piece of ribbon here, and it has to be extra long because mine is wrinkled. But anyway, plenty of extra ribbon to play with. It's better to have too much than too little. And I'm going to use a needle to make it a little easier on myself when pulling it through the signature, since this hole is a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to pull one end through the top and then one end through the bottom. Again, just threading it through the needle and then threading it through the signature, pulling it through just like this. And the ends don't have to be perfectly even, but you can if you want to. A little bit easier to work with when tying it off. And we're just going to kind of pull them tight, not too tight, you don't want to tear your signature, but just tight enough. And then we're going to take one end and loop it through the eyelet at the top of our journal, and then same thing with the bottom, going through the first set of eyelets here. All right, flip it over, and you can tie this in a variety of ways. You could tie it in the center, maybe make a little bow. You could tie it with the bow towards the top. You could tie it in a knot and cut the ends off. You could add beads to the extra ribbon. You could do this the opposite way and thread it through the spine into the signature and have these little ends hanging off of your signature. It's really however you want to do it. The main thing to keep in mind is that you need to tie it tight. You need to pull it as tight as you possibly can. And again, this is why I like the eyelets, is it keeps it from tearing and really holds things in place. You can't move side to side because it's limited by the eyelet, and it can't tear the metal. So I really like this method. It keeps everything in place. And once you tie it tight, you may need an extra hand for this to keep things, you know, as tight as possible. I ended up using my teeth because nobody was here today to help me, so this is how I'm doing it. Just get it as tight as you can. It's okay if it has a little bit of give. It's going to probably no matter what, but just try your best, okay? So if you get it fairly tight, you'll know that you've done it right. If it's not moving side to side and there's not a ton of room between the signature and the spine, here's kind of an example of that done wrong. You can see that the signatures are clearly moving around and sliding around here. You don't want that, otherwise your signatures are going to eventually wear and tear and maybe fall out. All right, and I went ahead and tied my bow at the top and left these extra strings hanging. I'll cut them down a little bit once I've got all of my signatures in, but this is kind of a general idea of what I'm doing. And you just continue that process, exact same process for each signature, going down the line of eyelets that you've made. And once you're done, you should have kind of a pretty little cluster of ribbons and bows on the spine, and all of your signatures should be held in nice and tight, just like this. All right. Kind of get a full look of what it looks like on the side here. And again, you could cut these extra strings off if you don't like them. If you like a cleaner look, you could add beads to them, or, you know, whatever. I'm just gonna leave mine as is. I think it's kind of elegant and pretty and fun. Okay. So that is sort of the main base for your journal. If you want to take it a step further, you can do what I did and grab a variety of ribbons and glue them down to the edges of your page. If you don't like that look, you could also tear them or distress them. I did a little bit of distressing on the top and bottom of my pages just to add texture. I do again have a tutorial on how to decorate your page edges in a variety of styles, like collages or punches, lots of different ideas. You could stain the edges however you want to do it. This was just kind of a quick way to get some nice layering effects, a little bit of extra texture, make it a little bit more detailed and a little more finished. Again, I did take that distress blade and just went on some of the pages that I didn't add ribbons to and just distress the edges of those. This did take a little bit of time, so you know, it's how much effort you want to put in, but it does kind of have a cool distressed look when it's all said and done. Alright, so that is going to finish today's tutorial for how to bind and decorate the base for the Regency Romance junk journal. I am going to be doing a tutorial for decorating, so you know, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss that. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your patience while I get this series out, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye!